Aretha Franklin. Yeah, we all know her as the Queen of Soul. But you know what? That title, as incredible as it is, really only scratches the surface because Aretha wasn't just a singer. She was a cultural architect, a voice that didn't just sing about history, it literally helped shape it. So let's get into how she did it. And look, President Obama just hit the nail on the head with this one. American history wells up when Aretha sings. It's the perfect way to think about her, right? Not just as a musician, but as this monumental figure in America's story, who could capture all its pain, its joy, and its hope in her voice. So, where in the world did that voice come from? To really understand the Queen, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning, back to the church, back to the community that forged this once-in-a-lifetime talent. Her early life was this mix of just huge promise and really profound loss. Born in Memphis in 42, she moved to the vibrant heart of Detroit. But then, in 1952, she lost her mother, which was a huge sorrow in her life. And then, get this, just 4 years later, she's in a studio recording her first album at just 14 years old. I mean, the vocal maturity on that record is just astonishing. And the environment she grew up in? It was everything. Her dad was a superstar minister with a $1 million voice of his own. And their church wasn't just a church. People called it a laboratory for vocal excellence. I mean, can you imagine growing up in that atmosphere? It was the perfect incubator for a prodigy like her. And this was basically her school. She was mentored by absolute legends like Mahalia Jackson. She mastered what's called the flat-footed style, which means you just stand still and let the voice do all the work. No gimmicks, no tricks, just pure, unadulterated power. And this is where she developed that chilling authority and that genius phrasing that would later define her. So, with this incredible foundation, she steps out into the world of secular music. But her path to becoming the Queen of Soul, well, it wasn't a straight line. There was a period of searching, of trying to find her true artistic home. And this right here, this slide shows the turning point. Over on the left, you've got Columbia Records. They tried to fit her into a box, this sophisticated jazz singer. And in doing so, they kind of smoothed over all her raw gospel power. But on the right, at Atlantic Records, they did the exact opposite. They unleashed it. They let her go back to her roots, play her own piano, and just be Aretha. And the results? Well, they were absolutely transformative. And here's the legendary producer Jerry Wexler explaining his strategy. And it's so simple, it's brilliant. I took her to church, sat her down at the piano, and let her be herself. He knew the key to her genius wasn't to produce her, but to just get out of her way. He didn't create the Queen of Soul, he just gave her the space she needed to claim her own throne. Another huge piece of the puzzle was her family. Her sisters, Irma and Carolyn, started singing backup, and this created that signature Franklin sound, that amazing call and response that feels like it came straight out of a Detroit church and landed right in the middle of a smash hit record. Okay, so all of this is building up to one of the most important songs in music history. We're going to break down how Aretha took a song written by a man and turned it into a universal anthem for the ages. This wasn't a cover. No way. This was a complete and total reinvention. I mean, the difference is just night and day. Otis Redding's original is a fantastic song, don't get me wrong, but it's a man's plea for some recognition when he gets home. Aretha's version? That's a woman's demand for dignity. It took a personal request and turned it into a political and cultural declaration that just echoed across the entire world. So, how'd she do it? This is pure genius at work. She wasn't just the singer, she was the architect of the song. The R-E-S-P-E-C-T, spell out, that was her idea. The "sock it to me" refrain? She came up with that with her sisters. She changed the whole rhythm, giving it that punchy, stop-start energy. But most importantly, she flipped the entire attitude. She didn't just sing the song, she completely rebuilt it from the ground up. And the world responded. Respect shot straight to #1 on both the pop and the R&B charts. This wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural phenomenon. This was the moment Aretha Franklin became an absolute, undeniable superstar. And that's the thing, her music and her message were totally inseparable. The title Queen wasn't just about how many records she sold. It was about her role as a powerful, powerful voice for social justice and the civil rights movement. You gotta love this story. Her coronation wasn't some marketing stunt from a record label. It came from within the Black community. A Chicago DJ named Purvis Spann literally put a crown on her head on stage, making official what everybody already knew. She was royalty. She was a symbol of Black pride and power. And she backed that title up with action every step of the way. She toured with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to raise money for the movement. She put clauses in her contract saying she wouldn't play for segregated audiences. She sang at Dr. King's funeral. And then, in 1970, in this incredibly bold move, she offered to post the massive $250,000 bail for the activist Angela Davis. And her reasoning was just so powerful. She said, I have the money, I got it from Black people, and I want to use it in ways that will help our people. It just shows you her deep sense of responsibility. She saw her success as belonging to her community, and she was willing to risk it all for what she believed in.
So as her career went on, she just kept on breaking barriers, cementing her status as a legend, not just for her time, but really for all time.
Take 1987. That's the year she became the first woman ever inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. People used to criticize it for being a private boys' club, and it was. Aretha was the one to finally kick the door down for every woman who came after her. And then there's this incredible story from the '98 Grammys. The opera legend Luciano Pavarotti gets sick right before he's supposed to perform. With only 30 minutes notice, 30 minutes, Aretha steps in. She sings Nessun Dorma, one of the most difficult opera arias ever written for a man, and she absolutely brings the house down. It was just a stunning display of her limitless talent. Even after she passed away, the honors just kept coming. In 2019, she was given a Pulitzer Prize special citation. This is an honor that goes to giants like Duke Ellington and John Coltrane. It cemented her place not just as an entertainer, but as one of the most important cultural figures in American history, period. And her influence today, it's everywhere. You feel her vocal power in Whitney Houston. You hear her piano-led storytelling in Alicia Keys. And her sound is the very foundation for countless hip-hop tracks, sampled by everybody from Kanye West to Jay-Z. She didn't just make music, she created a whole pathway for generations of artists to follow. So we'll end with this question to think about. What does it really mean for one voice to define an era? Well, the story of Aretha Franklin shows us that a voice can be so much more than just a sound. It can be a demand for respect, a tool for liberation, and the literal soundtrack for a movement. It can, in fact, define an era.